What's your quote about your line about acting?
Acting is the meeting of a crisis and dealing with it. It's the meeting of a crisis and dealing with it. And a crisis in the Chinese symbol is danger and opportunity meet. And if your character is not in a crisis, you haven't been doing your homework. Right. And it's your job to analyze and evaluate that crisis, and then we watch you go through it. And that's what makes us interested in watching a particular actor or not.
Yeah, you're in crisis in both those films. You die in both of them.
Yeah. And I die in The Thing too.
The Thing as well.
And I've died in so many TV shows.
Yeah, my wife makes fun of me because a lot of the little roles that I've had accomplished, I'm getting beat up or I die. I think that's the due pain, right? Like that's where I guess. Listen, you take it as an actor. You want to work, right? But
I mean, I think it comes to. I mean, Hamlet dies. You know. The dying or not dying, a character doesn't know he's going to die.
Right.
So you go on the journey as a character trying to accomplish something. Hamlet, he wants to avenge his father's death, but he doesn't know if it's the devil or if ghosts are haunting. He just doesn't know what to do. But his purpose is to take a revenge for someone killed his dad. And it looks to be like his uncle because he married his mom not even 3 months after.
Right.
So once you get the objective of a character, then everything springs from that.
Yeah. You didn't know that you were going to die in The Warriors, though.
No, that was an unfortunate series of events that led to my getting fired by Walter.
If you don't know anything that's going on in it, that there's a point in the movie when Fox gets killed is where the stakes are even higher. All right, Cyrus you're not connected with. And he's in the beginning of the film, but you're traveling as a warrior. You as a viewer are a part of the gang.
You know, you're the second person that said that they became more empathic for the characters.
It would be the same movie.
Because I got killed.
Yeah.
That if I hadn't been killed, which was not in the script, they wouldn't have cared as much as they did.
No.
So in an ironical way, my bad behavior, which is why I got fired, just so you know, it was, the product of a kid that came from nothing. And right. All of a sudden, I was being treated like I was like someone special.
Well, let's talk about kid came from Philadelphia from nothing. Let's go into that real quick before we go with the war.
Yeah, okay. So I grew up in a place called Bristol, Levittown. So Bristol was the ghetto, Levittown was the beginning of the suburbs, and we were right on the border. And, it was a tough neighborhood. I watched the race riots. I'm basically a love child. I have a strong instinct for love, not violence.
Yeah.
And then, it was a tough neighborhood. You had to, fight your way to the bus stop, and people picked on you, and you had to hit back or not. And I chose to hit back. And I became a pretty tough little kid until around 14. And I could fight pretty good for myself. I'd look for the biggest guy in the gang, and then thank God, Goddess, the universe sent a car to hit me. And it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me, because while I was in the hospital.
Well, how old were you when that happened?
15. And my femur, which is the biggest bone in our body, was snapped in half. So I had to go in the hospital back then, and they put you in traction to.
Yeah.
So 9 months. So
you know who that happened to as well?
Who?
Me.
You're kidding.
I had a compound fracture in the 7th grade. I got hit by a car.
Wow.
I was a tough, cocky kid, but that car grounded me quick.
Me too. No more fighting after that. And when I did try to fight, I got my ass kicked, but good. So then while I was in the hospital, I became, back then you could smoke in hospital rooms.
Yeah.
which is really crazy. So people would lay in their hospital bed.
Right next to the oxygen machine.
Right. And they would shoot me up with Demerol. And I would be like,
Yeah.
wow.
The Demerol.
So then they stopped giving it to me. And I would put on these performances. Like I was in tremendous, I'd pull the emergency and the nurse would come and she'd go get an injection. I'd be, so the doctor comes in, he's like, wait a minute, what is this? He's not supposed to be. And the nurse, Mrs. Richardson, my neighbor, looked at me and said, you ought to be an actor. And a light bulb went off over my ear.
That's what's up.
And I began reading literature, and a whole transformation took place. I discovered Shakespeare from Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. And my sister took me in a body cast to the drive-in while she was making out with her boyfriend. And I saw Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, and I just went, and that's what I want to do with my life. And I memorized the entire balcony scene, both characters, which I know to this day.
Wow.
And I used that to get me into Juilliard, which changed my whole life because it wasn't a pretty place to come from. You either got a job in the steel mill or you went to prison. You know, it was a tough.
Yeah, I talk about that as well. So when we seen John Travolta and Tony Manero, they're like, oh, maybe we can get out of this neighborhood to our
Well, that's the thing that should give hope
right
to all people that live in pecuniary circumstances, you know, that it's not the end of the world, that you can find some way out, whether it's music or literature, art. You know, for me, it was acting. And, you know, I've had a great life.
So this cocky kid, this tough cocky kid that goes to Juilliard and is into Shakespeare, that's like a big contrast there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, no one ever expected me to be anything but a bum. I mean, I was arrested 3 times before I was 14. I was headed for the
JD
dark
card,
side. Yeah, that's right. The judge said next time bring your toothbrush.
Yeah,
but you know, luckily, the genius of Shakespeare gave me an opportunity to get out of there. And then in Juilliard, I was still a huge pain in the ass. They kicked me out of there. So it isn't so surprising.
Yeah, but that cockiness and that tough, I mean, obviously you got casted for Fox and the Warriors. You're like a Brooklyn, you know, the gangs in Brooklyn in the 70s, 60s. I mean, I talk about in this play, my father's gang in the 60s in Flatbush. The gangs were no joke. So in order for you to come in and take on that role, they had to see that fire in you and that Philly tough kid that, you know, needed to find his voice. Right?
I, you know, was asked to leave Juilliard, and I had nowhere to go and no money because they were paying for everything. I had to get work. You know, I did whatever I could, delicatessens, cleaning dead rats out of bed, whatever I could to survive. And I had one of my directors from Juilliard recommend me to a place, a casting director. And because I continued training, even after I left school, I had kept up with my monologues. You know, they say you always have to have a classical monologue and a contemporary, a classical comic, a classical emotionally dramatic, a comic contemporary, and a emotionally dramatic contemporary. And then if you're really good, you get a couple in between, like Chekhov or Shaw or Ibsen, so you've covered the whole spectrum. And I hit up all the regional theaters in the country, and got my equity card at Center Stage in Baltimore when I was 21. And then I came back to New York City, and the same deal, nowhere to live, sleeping. I was sleeping on this couch in Soho before it was Soho, and it was 3 bartenders that did nothing but party. And I was like laying there going, you guys, I got an audition tomorrow. And then I was lucky enough to meet an agent named Jeff Hunter, who was a medium-sized agency at the time. And Mandy Patinkin recommended me. And I called this guy's office every day for 3 months. And they were like, is this you again? You know? Yeah. And they finally gave me an appointment. And again, the same thing applied because I kept working on, you know, like an actor has to act.
Yeah.
And when I did my monologues for Jeff, you know, back then you didn't have to do this taping nonsense. He pulled out a contract and said, you know, I'm going to make you a big, big star. And a week later, I was offered 2 movies at the same time.
Wow.
You know, and so things accelerated very quickly. I did the lead in a film called On the Yard with the great actor John Hurd. Most people know him as the Home Alone dad, but he was way, way more than that. And then, you know, they came into town with The Warriors and The Wanderers, and I was sort of like a hot, you know, young kid coming up that everybody wanted to meet. And it went to my head, you know, very quickly. And also an alcoholic. And we have this sense of grandiosity about us, you know, which is very deleterious to one's growth and development. You know, I started to believe that I was, you know, the next James Dean.
Yeah, but you're only 22.
Yeah,
so you got to give yourself a little bit.
That's true.
You're only 22.
But with regard to the Warriors and Walter, I was offered the Wanderers and the Warriors at the same time. And, you know, it looked like I was going to be, I don't know, the next whatever flavor of it. And I met with Walter, and he screened Rebel Without a Cause. And he was like, you know, that's how I see you. And I loved that because I love James Dean. And then we started shooting. And it became a very different proposition. First of all, it was all night shoots.
Yeah.
Night shoots are very difficult. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to do 1 night or 2. Yeah. Week in, we got 7 weeks of night
deprivation is a month.
You go crazy. Everyone on the set was going crazy.
Yeah.
And I just pestered, and you know, Paramount was breathing down his neck because his most recent film, The Driver with Ryan O'Neal, tanked at the box office. And he had all this pressure on him, people breathing down his neck, and he's over budget and he's behind schedule. And they thought this movie was going to come out and go right to VHS or whatever. But he is a real visionary. You know, when one sees the film, my character notwithstanding, you could see that he and Andrew Laszlo, the cinematographer, had a vision that they captured. You know, the streets were wet and glistening.
Beautiful.
And the music was great in that film. And I think that's Walter.
Yeah.
But I pestered this poor guy so much about, I'm sure myself, like, what am I doing here in this stupid scene that, you know, I don't know what I said exactly, but I just kept asking him questions that I had no business asking. I should have called my agent if I really, that would have been the proper ethical thing to do. But I just kept bugging this poor guy, and he finally said, and I quote, "Get rid of him. I don't care how you do it. Just kill him off. I can't stand him." And I created that. You know, I take responsibility for that. I'm not proud of it.
But like I said, it for people that don't know the background, it's a point in the movie where you really, because you feel like you're one of the warriors traveling on these trains to the city, and then when you lose one of the soldiers.
So, you know, maybe sometimes adversity has a way of being a great virtue. But, you know, Walter's been very good. And then, you know, to top things off, they sent the film to my agent and said, you know, where do you want, because the billing was supposed to be, you know, Thomas Waites and the Warriors. And that all changed, but I'm still in it for 17 minutes. And in an act of continued petty and petulant retaliation, I had my name removed from the film as if I were Peter O'Toole or something. And that really pissed off Walter and Paramount. You know, again, alcoholism, grandiosity, you know, believing this, you know, bullshit about yourself. That's not really true. I mean, I was a good actor, but all this other stuff, you know, it just got in my way. And then I thought, you know, my career was over. And then I met Al Pacino.
Yeah.
And
Al Pacino.
got to audition with him. And it's a funny story because it's all part of, by the way, a play that I'm doing, a one-man with my band play called Lucky Man.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, at the Gene Frankel Theater.
Okay.
And it begins, as I mentioned to you, with me getting fired from the Warriors. But it's called A Warrior's Journey, Lucky Man, A Warrior's Journey. And it's going to be I've done it at the Actors Studio twice. And that's like putting it under a microscope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah. How long has it been in development for?
I started it probably in August. And it was the same thing. Something very, very painful happened to me. A group of people, I don't want to say who they were, but they broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. And I felt betrayed and so forth. And I said, what do? You have to create. You can't just sit here and be hurt.
That's right.
And so I said, I'm going to write a one-man play about my life. And, you know, I've had an interesting life. I mean, how many people have lived with Al Pacino for a year?
Right.
You know, and, you know, been on Broadway with Deborah Harry in a rock and roll musical and gotten drunk with her and hung out with Kurt Russell. You know, I've had a very interesting life. And if it can be weaved, and I believe it is, as a sort of morality tale, you know, it can be very entertaining and exciting and I think important. Finally,
I think so. I mean, you've done a great service to over the years as a teacher and as a mentor, as an acting coach, as your school still happens in the city, right?
Yeah, TGW Acting Studios. Yeah. I've probably taught thousands of people by now. I mean, I don't remember them all. You know, I was at a meeting the other day, and you know, my sponsor goes to me, "That guy used to be your student."
Yeah.
Really? It must have been I've been doing it for so long, and I love it. You know, you can't be a teacher unless you love to teach.
Right.
You know, people that don't love doing it's a tough way to make a living, first of all, but it's also students pick up on it.
Right.
And you have to really care deeply about your students and the work and maintain a standard of excellence. I think the definition of a teacher is someone who pushes people past where they think they can go. If you think you can run the 100-yard dash in 9 seconds, they get you to do it in 8. You know, whatever it is that you're doing, they push you.
Right.
And that served me well whilst I continued to do television and plays and films. I was just offered another film for the spring. And, you know, I'm still doing it, but now my focus is more on my music.
Right.
Because all of this experience has taught me somehow to become a songwriter.
Yeah.
And I have a band called Heartbreak Waites. Please go to our website. You can hear a few of our songs. We haven't dropped them anywhere yet, but we will. And follow us on Instagram, Heartbreak Waites, Waites, like my name. And it's a great band. I mean, it's like 60s harmonies, but songs from the soul, yeah. And I'm surrounded by just 3 great musicians. Tony Daniels is my guitar player, and he's our music director who's been in the business for many years as a musician and a producer. And then we have a kid named Cedric Allen Hills who plays keyboard in the cajon. And he's like, if Brian Wilson and David Bowie had a kid, it would be Ced. The kid's an absolute musical genius, and he's a great vocalist. Then Annie McGovern, who's a beautiful redhead vocalist.
So an artist doesn't have to be just one thing.
That's correct.
So you're in a new phase. You
Yeah.
pick up a new paintbrush.
Yeah. I mean, I actually started in the 80s. I had a band called the Push-Ups, probably when you guys were around. And I used to do one-handed push-ups on my knuckles as part of the act, take my clothes off. And, we got assigned to a letter of intent, and a publishing company picked us up because of my songs. And it never went anywhere because, we all just started fighting once the money it was terrible. And it was sort of a punk band, a new wave rock dance punk band.
Check that out.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any footage out there of the Push-Ups, but we played CBGBs a lot.
Yeah.
We played tracks. We played all the clubs, and we used to open for the Smithereens a lot. Pat used to be a buddy of mine, and he was he was a good guy. I'm sorry that he's gone so young. And the Smithereens are great, and we would open for them in a lot of clubs. And we started to get it going, but again, I think the drugs and the drinking really took over for me in the 80s and just destroyed my life. I lost everything I ever cherished, my wife, my children, my career, you name it. This disease took it. And I'm very open, obviously, I'm very public about it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much shame involved in being an addict. But there mustn't be, and there are many kinds of addictions. There are kids addicted to video games, which I can't even grasp the concept. I've never played one. But it's a very dangerous plague on our society. And I'm sure you've encountered.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the reasons why we built this exhibit. There's a little bit of that in it, right? Because I have 4 kids. I wanted people to come in here and touch it, live it, walk around in it.
This is incredible.
Did you ever think that this movie would take on such a cult, folklore following?
No, and I don't think anyone else did either. Certainly Paramount didn't.
Right.
Usually the way studios used to work, I'm not so sure how they work now, but movies that they think have no chance, nothing's going to happen with it.
Right.
And the first 3 weeks of February, it topped the box office. And then Paramount had to pull it because they said it was causing riots.
Riots in the movie theaters, right?
Yeah, I think, truth be told, 2 bikers got knifed in Oxnard, which probably would have happened anyway.
Right.
And some dude in Brooklyn somewhere tore up seats for anyway.
Yeah.
They were afraid, and there was pressure on them to pull the film. So they pulled it, and that made audiences want it even more.
It happened to a movie Burt Lancaster called The Young Savages. It was a gang movie around the same time as West Side Story. It's a great, great film.
I don't know it.
It's a great film. They actually, like The Warriors, I mean, it was very much rich with real gang culture. And Burt Lancaster plays a DA. And this was the first time they used real gang members as actors. So one of the main actors from The Horsemen is it's in Italian Harlem, and it's a clash between Italians and Puerto Rican, and the Horsemen, the Puerto Rican gang, dressed in crazy black overcoats and fedoras. My father said that's the first movie where they didn't want to dress with motorcycle jackets. They wanted that look because that gang was so fucking cool. But the same thing, it played in the movie theaters, and they had some problems, and
they pulled it.
But then it hyped up the film.
Interesting.
Right. So,
But the other thing about The Warriors is that unlike the book, Walter created these imaginative gangs, Furies, and who could have imagined these gangs that the choices that they made were so daring and bold, to have them all in baseball uniforms or all. I thought that gave it this surrealistic quality that, yes, it was really New York. Yes, it was really in the 70s, but nobody really wants to see real life, do they? They want to see heightened.
Right.
And between the camera work and the costumes, and again, the music, which I'm sure Walter had something to say about, because
Incredible.
it's
soundtrack.
great.
It was from like the Eagles to
Yeah. And even the incidental, wherever.
the scoring,
Yeah.
the bass line with the baseball fury.
It was great.
And we can't forget about New York City as a character, right? Like I don't know if you
Especially then.
right. I don't know if you could film, you can make the Warriors. I mean,
Right.
listen, you can make like Lin-Manuel is making the Warriors for Broadway, and I can't wait to see that. I mean, I've listened to the record, and it's actually
I love the music.
actually really great.
It's great music.
It's really great. So like the Warriors 40, it's 45 years is an anniversary, and you get to see like people like embracing it the way they are and reinterpreting it. And like that, when it came to this, I had to put it in because it was such a big part of my life, and the Ghost of Fox, right? I mean,
That's in the installation here that Kaves has created, which I urge all of you to come down to Industry City. That's what it's called, right? This place.
Yes.
And the address again is 254 36th Street. On the second floor, 2R has this phenomenal, I guess you would call it tribute, tipping your hat to New York City, Brooklyn in specific, starting with the Jackie Robinson, the great Jackie Robinson, and the Brooklyn Dodgers, which you have to have heard about unless you've been under a rock somewhere when they moved to Los Angeles and broke everyone's heart. But wasn't that the first team to hire a black
That's right.
baseball player?
America, yeah.
In America. And he must have suffered so much.
Actually, he had to win everybody over, right? And besides what he was going through, the pain and struggle of the time. But
Well, let's take a moment and I really hope you keep this part in, and I hope that everyone and anyone that can listens. There is a movement afoot to ban books and to erase history concerning how we treated the black man. It's unethical and immoral that we would try to erase history. And Jackie Robinson is a perfect example of someone that had to fight through that hatred, all that hatred we generated toward people, because they were born closer to the equator.
well, listen, it was important to me to celebrate Brooklyn and its diversity.
Right.
The Brooklyn story is the most important story for me to tell because it's one of that is of diversity and about how it is the great American experiment, New York City and Brooklyn, because we all had to get along with each other. Now we definitely went at it,
Sure.
and we definitely it's a love and hate, want to kill each other.
Yeah.
But when you grow up on a block and you grow up in a neighborhood where you're forced to it's in your face. It's either you're gonna work it out,
Yeah.
or you're gonna kill.
And then you end up playing basketball together.
No, you
You end up becoming friends with
you
these.
end up climbing into train yards together and painting beautiful masterpieces together. As for when I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, the spray can was the only color you worried about. Now listen.
That's a great line.
Listen, any part of the neighborhood, there was a lot of. I talk about it in there. There was a lot of shit that was wrong.
Yeah.
But this is an art movement that was made by children for children of all color and all backgrounds.
Yeah.
And rich, poor, it didn't matter what you were. And for me to tell a story, a Brooklyn story, and listen, class played a big part of the struggle.
Yeah.
And my mom took a lot of shit for being on welfare and in a neighborhood that, it was rich and poor. It was like, like the outsiders, there was the socias and the greases and so all we knew how to do was try to be creative in it. And this immersive experience is 3 generations of that kind of story. And I like to paint a picture of how it really was. But like you said, art imitating life, life imitating art. It's a dream from my memory of what it was, or how I would like it to be. You gotta see what is fact and what is fiction in there, right?
Well, I think all artists, must put their imprint on what they do, and have the guts to put it out there. Yeah. But you bring up two important things. And one is, Martin Luther King said, "Thank God for the infinite patience of gradualism," right? So gradually, slowly, after finally 1963, the black man got the right to vote. How did that? Women didn't get the right to vote till 1918. How gradually we've been improving as a society in the places that we have. And then the other thing, that you brought up about being on welfare, how we judge people because of this money thing, that must be something wrong with you if you're not rich. You must be stupid. You must be uneducated. You may be, but that you're still a human being. Yeah. I really loathe and detest this concept that, I used to teach lawyers. This sounds like I'm going off topic, but I'm not. I was in graduate school for writing. I sought a less employable profession than acting. Writing, I think about it. But to survive, I had a wife, a child, and another one on the way. And I went over to the law school and I said, can I teach sort of acting for lawyers? I called it enhanced trial advocacy. And I got the job. I got paid as an adjunct professor, which saved my family's life. The theater department was too intimidated to hire me. But anyway, I was working with these lawyers, and their concept of victory had to do with money.
Right.
And I'm like, listen, just because you look like you have money, doesn't necessarily translate that you're a good person. You could have the most nefarious intent with regard to children or women or
doesn't mean shit.
Anything sacred. Just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean you're a good guy.
No, I think that's what with the Warriors as a kid, seeing that film and seeing that crew, kind of was like something we could relate to street.
And it was interracial.
Because that's what it was to us on the street.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. And when you see something like the Warriors, I mean, it just kind of, it was like, it felt really, felt like it was you.
Yeah. And the thing about the Warriors that's really funny is we have these generations of fans. I mean, I know I go to these autograph signings, and it garnered an entire new following because of the video game.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'll tell you a funny story. I had to audition to play myself.
No, you didn't.
Yes. My manager calls me and goes, you have a voiceover audition today. And, I had done quite a bit of voice work, commercials and things like that, because I have a good voice and I can, articulate large amounts of copy in a short amount of time. So that, again, feeding my family and making health insurance. But they called and said, you have an audition for a voiceover. I said, what's it for? And they said, The Warriors. And I said, well, I was in it. I said, yeah, I know. And I said, who am I auditioning for? And they said, yourself. I was like, you held the phone. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But I went down and auditioned. I needed the money. And the guy said, look, I didn't mean to insult you. It's just that I wanted to see if you had burned your voice out from drugs and cigarettes and alcohol. And you sound just like you did when you were a kid. So
I did the graffiti for that game.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Wow. The point is that the kids that come up and ask for autographs now go, I didn't even know there was a movie made. I just was into the video game and someone said, hey, it's a movie. So we have this whole new generation of fans, and now the genius of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he is a veritable musical and theatrical genius. And now he's paying attention to it. So that will garner a whole new flock.
Yeah, and the record is amazing.
The music is great, and I think it's the San Francisco that go Warriors come out, and the stands and the basketball games come out and play.
It's amazing.
So you mentioned also, because you were a rap singer, yes. The Lords of Flatbush,
Lords of Brooklyn. Yeah.
Lords of Brooklyn. Sorry, Dorsey Wright, who was here.
Yeah,
he is almost like a musicologist, mate. He knows so much about music grew up in New York. Actually, he grew up in Philly, but he knows so much about hip hop.
No, he knew every piece of gear that was in that room.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was going off about it. So, yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah. He's a beautiful dude.
I can't wait for you to see Jeff Thomas play the Ghost of Fox.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. Yeah, to get people to come down here. I want to say it one more time.
Yeah.
Look at this face. I've made money with this face, so look at it. 254 36th Street. The second floor, 2R. Get off at 2R in the elevator. And you'll see Kaves installation, which not only includes the Warriors, but a whole piece of Brooklyn, a whole piece of life from Brooklyn, starting with your grandfather and your grandmother. And then it takes you through maybe some of your favorite movies, The Warriors and Saturday Night Fever and Do the Right Thing, which was a great, great film. And he does it like you're really here. If you could take a time machine back, that's sort of what his art does. And I strongly encourage all of you. So I urge you all, instead of playing video games, or even if I'm in them, or watching, television, get out and experience the culture.
And it's an immersive play once a month.
So also come and check that out, because Kaves has a kind of perspective. My character as a ghost, which I can't wait to see. I'm almost a ghost myself, having just turned 70. No, just kidding.
Yeah, but listen, people, you're still doing your thing, and I can't, there's so many people that tell me that they have to take your class.
Oh, my acting class?
My acting class.
That's great.
It's supposed to be amazing.
I make everyone do Shakespeare. Yeah, so don't be scared. Yeah. You'll be amazed. People come, Paulie Vario. I don't know if you know the name, but he grew up in New York, a big, Italian family, whatever. Came and took my classes. Yeah. And he looked at it like, what, are you fucking kidding me? Right. I can't. And it was Hamlet's speech to the players. Very important speech, because it teaches you everything you need to know about acting, by the way. I'll just give you a brief part of it. Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, trippingly on the tongue. But if you mouth it, as many of your players do, I had as lief the town crier spoke my lines, nor do not saw the air with your hands too much, but use all gently. For in the very torrent, tempest, and, as I may say, whirlwind of your passion, you must acquire and beget temperance that may give it smoothness. That's the first paragraph. And this guy looked at me like, I can't even read this. Forget about memorizing it.
Yeah. And our good friend, Catherine Narducci.
Oh, I love Catherine.
To you, and I owe a great deal, because she sung your praises, and she's a sweetheart. So
love Catherine.
Yeah.
But this guy, Paulie Vario, ended up doing it letter perfect, with every pitch change, rhythm, beat, meaning elucidated. A street guy. Right. You would be amazed what you can do if you have someone that knows how to teach you. And it's my theater, it's not my theater, the Gene Frankel Theater's on 24 Bond Street. I teach every Monday from 6 to 10. And the first class is free. I'm easily reachable on the internet. I have a website for it, all that stuff. You can, if you have a half a brain, you can find me and come down and watch a class. And if you think you want to be an actor, Yeah, you'll find out.
I thank you for being here, taking out your time. Mr. Kaves is Brooklyn Waites. The Brooklyn Pop is the podcast. The Brooklyn Dream is the immersive play. We hope to see you soon. Let's do it.
Thanks a lot.
All right. It's great.